Welcome and thank you for joining me. I'm Connor Lokar, economist here on the team at ITR. I'm glad you are joining me again for my latest trends talk. Today we're going to be talking about costs and cash. Specifically, how companies really need to be focusing on the most profitable parts of their business and make sure they're really scrutinizing their variable and their fixed cost budgets for the next year. A lot of companies probably came in with projections that were a repeat of 2018's growth rates, and if so, that could put your business out of position cash-wise next year and potentially in a spot unable to capitalize on next year's rising trend while things are slowing down now, which we've been looking for quite some time, and we actually expect that to get worse before it gets better. We expect that slowing trend to persist through the early stages of 2020, but the grass is greener on the other side. We do expect by the back half of the year we will be accelerating again, and that rising trend and quickening trend from a growth standpoint will persist well into 2021. We want to make sure we're prepared for that. But right now, many businesses are likely in early phase C, what we call phase C of the business cycle, that slowing growth phase of the business cycle. Means you're still growing, our cash flow is still strong, but it's a decrease in the increase. We are growing at a slowing pace, but we're still feeling great about our positions overall. However, unfortunately, there are storm clouds forming in the distance, and our dashboard of leading indicators here at ITR have been flashing from yellow to orange to red for really more than a year now at this point that we've been tracking. Those empirical data points that have been telling us to look out for the slowing trend that is really starting to grip the U.S. business cycle in the here and now. Now, tendency number one for most executives is going to be denial. Most business leaders don't want to leave the high growth times, the good old days that we enjoyed in 2017 and 18, and might hope to wish it away. In fact, that's usually the approach adopted by the Fed, central banks, or governments across the globe is, all is well, this time is different, and try to, again, deny away the slowing growth trend. And what we want to do, and what I want you to do, is avoid that tendency. We need to shift our operations to prepare for how things are and how they're going to be, not how we wish that they were going to be. Now, a common pitfall at this stage of the business cycle is to make heavy investment just after the business cycle peaks to rectify 2018's supply constraints and capacity constraints. Maybe that's new equipment, new capital equipment. Maybe it's building out new square footage to fill with a higher head count. Depending on what your business does, maybe it's loading up on inventory. And what that's going to do, it's going to blow out your fixed costs and your variable costs just before business cycle decline begins. And now we're going to underutilize those expensive new assets, which is going to gut our profitability. We would be better served waiting 12 months or so until we get to the bottom of this business cycle and the bottom of the price cycle to purchase new assets, perhaps negotiate new leases, move into a larger space, add capacity to our lines as far as so that we can time our capacity expansion and our increase in costs that are going to go along with that with the next bout of order acceleration. What we don't want to do is on the doorstep of an extended bout of decelerating order activity just when things are starting to die off and we're chewing through our backlogs like they're beef jerky. That's what we don't want to be doing. Unfortunately, that is commonly how things play out. Now, this cycle is delicate as we project that this downturn is going to be relatively mild. So we're really walking the tightrope here. We don't want to fully derail our phase B, accelerating growth initiatives that we put in place in 2017 and 2018, but we also don't want to get too far out over our skis. Cash is really king. It's an old but true saying, and we want to give our balance sheets a hard look, make sure it's depicting a healthy company, one that just came out of 2 years of hopefully record top line growth, profit growth, and really rode that macroeconomic wave, and look to ourselves. Do we have that depth of strength to draw on if things start to move sideways, or if some of our order activity actually deteriorates year over year in the second half of 2019 and early 20? Because if we don't have that healthy balance sheet, then it's going to be a bumpier ride for us. We're going to have to look at the rate at which we're burning through our cash and evaluate, what can we support, what levels of pain can we support later this year. You'll want to look to your various departments, maybe with some budget reduction goals in line to limit your variable costs where possible, and at least perhaps slow down the increase anyway in your costs in line with your slowing top line growth. And you really have to be a bit elastic with your resource allocation, be willing to pull back from that always growth, always onward and upward mindset that we might have been lulled into the last couple of years. And with that, again, we want to focus on the most profitable parts of our business. Again, maybe leaning away from those commoditized products, it's generally another maxim we see. It's a falling pricing knife typically on the backside of the business cycle. And any commodity or raw material type product, we've seen that for the most part here in 2019. We've seen year-over-year pricing declines. Diminished margins should be expected with that. So your sales team, they should be prioritizing those more specialized product or service offerings that are going to retain their margins as the current softening in the economic cycle worsens as we move forward. This is going to allow you to remain profitable even if your top line growth suffers in that phase C deceleration that we find ourselves in. Now, the bottom of the business cycle, it does appear poised. It's offering low interest rates right now. We're seeing downward pressure on 10-year yields. We might be seeing some cuts in the federal funds rate from the Federal Reserve. We are likely to see lower asset prices. So as long as you control your costs now and perhaps stay in a position to borrow, a healthy debt to equity ratio, or you're in a healthy cash position, you're going to be able to make your move in 3 or 4 quarters in a position to hit next year's growth cycle in stride. We're looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us. I'm Connor Lokar.